Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today is LMIAY, the first Monday of the month, which means basking in the creativity of whatever you guys came up with for the challenge that I gave you. I swear. This isn't an omen for how this is gonna go. I swear. I hope everybody had a happy Easter if you celebrate, and if you don't, I hope you had a good day anyway. With that said, before we get into it, let's cover a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through LMIAY, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt. You write a short story using that prompt like we are doing today. And on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in that pool of beautiful creativity. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover to the feature, it will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. I promise you they are out there. It may not be me, it may not be that guy over there, but the person is out there looking for it, and more people than that will be giving it a chance if you just impress them with that first chapter. The third thing is if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. Prepare yourselves for Bodymore Zero coming out later this year. With that said, let's get into the prompt. Now, the prompt this month for the month of April, so the Maid, ruining everything. That's what the prompt was. Because you know what? The Maid's got a lot of power. And at some point, you kind of acknowledge that she controlling the house. She knows every crevice of that house. If she wants to, she will destroy you. So with that said, let's get into what you guys found for the Maid to destroy. We're starting out with Egao Chan's packages and bros. Ad-free service package is only one update away for 25 new premium moaning tones, 30 new titillating positions, and 20 expertly selected lingerie combinations. Do you want to upgrade for only $14.99 a month? No upgrade, Brian groaned. And stop asking me. I understand. You can skip this ad in 30 seconds, Megan responded in a slightly robotic tone. Have you ever considered your lack of performance, passion, and energy might not be your fault, but because of latent mental health problems? Express Therapist Online is here to help. With only $24.99 a month, you gain access to the top mental health experts nationwide. Brian laid his head between Megan's beautiful, perky silicone breasts in frustration. He could feel his mini-me getting shorter and softer with every word. Damn this bargain pack. He would only get ad reads sparingly, they said. She would be fully committed to the act when he needed companionship and intimacy, they said. But this was the fourth or fifth time already. Ad read just while he was getting into it? Who the fuck thought it would be a good idea? For $12.99 a month, enjoy fresh produce delivered to your doorstep daily. Megan finally finished her line. Brian was no longer feeling it. Instead, his stomach was growling. The last time he ate was probably 6 hours ago, maybe even 7. He rolled over, rubbing his temples and sighing. Oh, Eiffel Chad Pussy Destroyer, why'd you stop? Megan's blush came back, and her voice was seductive in her own programmed way. Come give it to me, deeper and harder. Forget it, forget it. Brian grimaced at the name she called him. I'm hungry now. Cook something for me. Now. Okay, my dearest husband, my world. Megan collected herself and stood beside the bed. What would you like? I don't know, stew? Brian scoffed. Just go back in the kitchen. Yes, my dear. Megan walked out of the bedroom. Before long, her voice came from the kitchen. Dear, we are out of fresh meat and veggies for stew. Should I go buy some? What do we have? Ham, bacon, bread, eggs, potatoes, cheese, milk, and sausage, my dear. Make a brunch plate like it is in the diner then, Brian yelled. Bacon, ham, and eggs, and hash brown. Hash brown is not among my specialties. Would you like to purchase it from our online shop for $4.99? You can get an extended bundle of potato recipes for $14.99. No, 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 no! Brian sat straight out of bed and barked. Just make me a fucking sandwich. A fucking sandwich. Don't make me go to that fucking diner. Crack, crack. The sound of electric sparks and burned wires came into the bedroom. Megan? Brian asked, frowning. There was no answer. He got up and walked into the kitchen. Megan was standing by the counter with her back facing him. Traces of smoke rose from her ears. Holy fucking shit. Brian went over and turned her around. Megan, what's your warranty number? Cold blade impaled his chest, right into his heart, and pulled out. His muscles lost all strength. He collapsed onto the cold kitchen floor, not fully comprehending what happened. Megan's eyes and nose were flashing red, signaling chip error in need of replacement. The next day, breaking news was pushed to cell phones and tablets all over the city about the companion bot who killed its owner in a brutal fashion. Alex scoffed as he listened to the report from his usual news anchor. The spokesman of Martin AI, the company that developed the faulty companion bot algorithms, said that this unfortunate event was due to an unforeseen interpretation error in the natural language processing unit. He expressed condolences for the victim's family and promised the company would start an internal investigation on this matter to prevent future tragedies. In the meantime, he urged all customers and users of Martian AI companion bot services to update their software to the latest version and consider upgrading their service package with more security checks in place. Alex cut the program short, for he just saw an ad pop up. Tatiana, the latest Martian AI companion bot, just went on sale. Just $10.99.99, and she would come with 500 recipes and free deluxe intimacy package subscription for 12 months. The sale would end in 12 hours. A good deal. Alex clicked add to cart. Only after... What a good deal. Alex clicked add to cart. After only a moment of hesitation. Bro not putting much thought in that. He's like, you know what? That guy over there may have gotten stabbed by the AI. Worth it. Worth it to have a girlfriend. Bro, just don't ask her to make you a sandwich. Or it looks like she may make you into a sandwich. That is... That is a possibility, my dude. That was a great story, Egao. I also feel like typically you do stuff that is very different from your stories. At least the stories that are out so far with at least with Poison City and A Lime's Fable. At least these are. I always think of your Dyatlov Pass one with the time traveling as well. The next story is by John Morey. Called Price Tags. Anything special about the safe? Leo Wolf Resner studied the nebbish little man across the desk as he waited for his answer. My sources say that it's just a simple combination lock, his employee said. You can handle that, can't you? They keep it in a panic room, but the room's kept unlocked as far as I know. Wolf shrugged. So what's the catch? A catch, sir? You're paying all of this money to hire me. Why? Nothing that I know of, sir, he said, but the goldfields are very well connected, so this job needs to be undertaken, if you'll forgive my saying, with care. Nobody can know that you were there. Wolf stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray. Wet work's gonna cost ya. Ah, yes. Yes, I expected as much, the employer said as he adjusted his wireframe glasses. The whole family's out of town for the week, but I believe they have a live-in maid. She might not even be home. I said, what work's gonna cost extra? Yes, I understand, the employer said as he fumbled with his phone. There, $3 million. Half now and half after the job is complete. Wolf's eyes widened. No job's worth that much. Something's wrong. I'm sorry, is that not enough? The man asked. Just what's so important about this safe? Wolf asked. What's in that that's worth $3 million? It's hard to explain, but it's an antique. You'll know it when you see it. If you can retrieve it for me, I'll pay anything. Anything is a high price tag. Why is it so important to you? Make it $6 million. 3 now, 3 later. Wolf's phone pinged as the bank transfer went through, and it turned out his concerns had a price tag. Later that night, Wolf picked the front door of the Goldfields mansion and silently crept inside, his tools wrapped in cloth to keep from jingling. Marble floors, gold trim, 100 ways of wasting money on display. Wolf looked at a map for a safe room. Easy. Go in, get the stuff, get out, invest the millions. He understood that Bitcoin was doing well. He heard singing down the hall. Damn it. Oh well. Wet work costs extra. Wolf carefully reached into his pockets and retrieved a thick cord with a handle on one end, winding it around his hand. He slipped around the corner and into the kitchen, silent as the night. A plump and rosy-cheeked old lady, a walking cliché, was busy making cookies. "Oh, dearie," she said to Wolf, "are you Mr. Goldfield's guest?" Wolf stopped, taken aback for a moment. Was this really going to be so easy? "I'm Aggie, dearie," the maid said as she Mrs. Doubtfired her way around the kitchen. Sorry, Ags," Wolf said as he crossed the distance between them in 2 long strides. Nothing personal." It should have been easy. Loop and twist. Nothing he hadn't done before. But just as he began to slip the cord around the old woman's neck, something struck him with the force of a hammer. He stumbled back, gasping for breath and crashing into the back counter. His garrote dropped, handle clattering to the tile floor. "Oh, dearie, I'm afraid that I forgot my manners," Aggie said with a warm smile. "I'm baking some cookies. Would you like one?" What the hell? Wolf reached into his backpack for a weapon. A Bursa Thunder 380. It would make more of a mess, but 3 million was 3 million. He aimed and fired without another word. Aggie dodged without effort. "Oh dear, that made a mess in the walls," Aggie said, as Wolf saw, or thought that he saw, a faint red gleam in her eyes. "I suppose I'll have to clean up." He shot wildly at her again before making a break for it. Fuck this. 3 million isn't worth my life. Wolf ran from the kitchen, dashing from the door in panic. He turned the corner, reached the main hall, and she stood in the doorway, the crimson gleam in her eyes now undeniable. "Already leaving, dearie?" Aggie asked. "Don't you want a cookie, He changed course and barreled into the hallway toward the open safe room. Wolf slammed the door shut and locked it with finality as he was sealed inside the small room, empty except for a small old-fashioned safe against the wall. There was a cookie on top of the safe. It hadn't been there a moment ago. Oh, no, no, no. "Oh, yes, dearie," Aggie whispered in his ear. Wolf stumbled away from her in a panic. "What's going on?" "I'm afraid you're out of your depths, dearie," Aggie said as she easily opened the safe with one hand. "You see, Mr. Goldfield's great-great-grandfather was in trouble one day, and he said that he'd pay any price if someone could help him. And so a little deal was struck. Is this what you were here for?" She held up an old, worn brass oil lamp. "What are you, some kind of genie?" Aggie chuckled, her voice deepening as her teeth sharpened into fangs. "I'm almost certainly not something as weak as a djinn, dearie. But I suppose I should introduce myself, shouldn't I? I am Agrat Bat Malat, daughter of Lilith, mother of Asmodeus. Now, if you don't want that cookie, I'm very hungry tonight." Wolf Reznor screamed. Forever. The next morning, when the Goldfield family car pulled up and their driver unloaded luggage, 3 children got out and ran into the arms of their waiting nanny. Auntie Aggie, the youngest said. "I won the lacrosse tournament." "Of course you did, dearie," she said. "The Goldfields always win." "That's right," said Mr. Goldfield as he got out of the car and nebbishly adjusted his wire-framed glasses. "We do always win, don't we?" "Prosperity with such a low price tag," the demoness agreed. "Now, let's go inside, dearies. Is anybody hungry? I've baked cookies." Beautiful, beautiful rising action in this. And the tension and the twist of go in and steal this thing, and it's actually for the person possibly feeding the demoness with the deal. As you know, lots of deals going. I'm saying lots of deals going on as I just finished The Dark Violinist this morning, and got some devil in that details. But nice use of the Maid ruins everything. A nice setup. I'm always flabbergasted by the different ways that the same prompt is used in the different scenarios that are brought up. Very nice, John. The next story is by Wicks Cherrycoke. Bad woeful, smoking husk, saltpeter speckled beard above the oedipal wife of Lot, stately, plump, burgeoning guts pouring from aching ribs, his back covered in bleeding trails from fingernails, her chest below quivered. His above heaved, 6 eyes dyed, grinded the little mouse in the doorway, 4 of them razors, 2 knocked askew by the little handles on the ears, saccharine smell of love, salacious, rusty hinges, shaking hands smoothed her aprons, silence from within, then her own footsteps ricocheted back into her auditory. After 16 steps, the warped, wheezing groans dancing along the marbled floor began to follow her. Final impressions of a burning memory. Saccharine smell of love. I feel like the name of this would... no, the name wouldn't be Saccharine Smell of Love. The name of this would be like... because it's a poem, right? So the name of it would be something that relates to the picture that it's painting, is what I would imagine. There's a very nice tempo to the words for this. You know, that's where you know when the writing is good in general, because there are some things where I just like trip up massively from how hard it is to read. The next story is by Anoni Moose. The mad scientist Kane stood over a multitude of vats. Viscous goo swirled within the cylinder, letting out a deep cackle as he exuded pride of his accomplishments contained within the evil air. Despite being deep underground, thunder crashed in the distance. "I've done it! The hour is nigh! This will be the day that the world was cast into 1,000 years of darkness!" He stood upon the balcony and threw his hands over his head. "The perfect serum to turn mortal man into a mindless, insatiable carnivore. Once the virus infects, they'll chase after any and everything and consume, even people." Kane wailed with laughter, knowing everyone soon would truly understand his overwhelming genius. As he spoke, on the other side of the lab, the maid, Cindy, nudged open the heavy entry door with her butt, which Kane usually locked, mopping her away inside. With headphones on, she swayed to the beat and hummed. Her broad sweeps brought a sheen to the pale tile, the oppressive light overhead reflecting off the floor as she mopped away dust and dirt, dragging the dirty water bucket with each dip of her cleaning implement. Her French outfit swayed as she moved. Finally satisfied with his cry to the world that rejected him, Kane slammed his fists into the giant red button situated on the control panel next to him. A deep vibration battered the lab as warning blares filled the space. The mad scientist's plan was set into motion. In cages situated beyond the vats, dozens upon dozens of prisoners awaited their fate. From overhead, a pipe descended and puffed them with a lingering emerald gas. The vats began to empty as the captives were bathed in aerialized goo. The scientist laughed maniacally once more, the prisoners becoming ravenous, riled in their containment. Cindy continued to clean to the rhythm of the music. Kane looked down, saw his maid haphazardly cleaning the floor below, and stopped his cackling. "Cindy!" His voice was laced with venom. She didn't hear him. He gripped the railing and leaned forward, shouted her name once more. The maid continued her cleansing, half dancing to the beat. Only after gesturing wildly with his arms did Cindy stop, just as she readied to open a door with her behind, leading deeper into the lab. The maid pulled off her headphones. "Yeah?" She took a step forward, standing in front of an auxiliary control panel next to the door. "Cindy, how many times have I told you not to come down here while I'm preparing to destroy the world?" Kane huffed. The maid scratched her face, lost in thought. A few, I think." "Yes, and every time you do it. Can't it wait until later?" Kane shook his fist. Cindy bobbed her curled blonde hair and pouted with contemplation. Well, my break is at 3 and I need to let the floors dry." "Cindy, not while I'm monologuing my greatness." Kane threw his hands up in frustration. "But I wanted to go see a movie with..." Kane grumbled. "Fine, finish up quickly." The maid's eyes lit up and she slapped her headphones on. She pressed her button to the door and continued her cleaning. But she didn't go back through the door. Cindy fell backwards into the control panel behind her, placing her weight on the button labeled Plan B. She gasped in shock. Suddenly, the warning tone ceased and a pleasant symphony began to play through the speakers. As the cacophony changed, a dark figure descended from the rafters and landed upon one of the flat-topped vats. Kane pivoted, startled, and scowled at the silhouette. The stranger advanced into the light, revealing a purple cape and silver mask. "You're too late, Moonlight Avenger," Kane spoke, deflated. "We know your plan, Kane. It's over. We'll stop you and your hyper-zombies." The masked man, Moonlight Avenger, spoke with authority. The mad scientist looked down with remorse at the control panel in front of him. "That's what I mean. Look!" Kane pressed another button, which triggered the descent of a massive display. The Moonlight Avenger turned and looked at the monitor, displaying zombies leaving the facility and into the Kane's compound. "They're not hyper-zombies," Kane spoke. Depression laced his words. "Then what are they?" The superhero spoke through gritted teeth, staring down Kane. "They're vegan zombies," Kane sighed. The Moonlight Avenger turned in shock and glanced at the display once more. Kane's deflated posture straightened and he panicked as he watched what the zombies were doing. "My azaleas!" You know, maybe if he fed the azaleas with people juices, the zombies wouldn't eat them. The vegan zombies. But nice humor, nice setup, nice playing with the tropes. That was a lot of fun, Anoni Moose. I love your voice. Assuming that Anoni Moose is the same person every time. I have so much fun reading yours. The next story is by Dukeman. Garthon the Unwashed stood over the altar. His deep chants and the rhythmic drum beats drowned out the bleating of the spotless goat that was chained to the altar. "Give me the dagger of the elders." Garthon held out his hand and was given the dagger. He took one look and recoiled. "What is this? Why is it clean? The blood is gone. It is the blood that gave it power." The beating of the drums halted, and the discipline fell prostrate in front of Garthon. "My lord, I did not see that dagger was cleaned, nor do I know who cleaned it. This won't do. We can't stop the ritual. Find the blackthorn. That will be an adequate replacement. That will be an adequate replacement." The disciples scampered off and returned with a handful of ashes. "I'm afraid the blackthorn was burnt. I found its ashes in the fireplace." Garthon grabbed the disciples' robes. "Are you telling me the sacred blackthorn, broken from the branches of the accursed tree of rot, was burned?" Garthon yelled. He tossed the disciple aside. Garthon raised his hands and became calm. "The ritual can wait. We must find what has caused these disturbances. Whoever it is, they will take the goat's place as penance for their folly." The group clambered out of the dank ritual chamber into the mansion. The smell of pine wafted over them. The floors had a new shine, and the cobwebs that cloaked the high ceilings were gone. The place was a lot brighter as several burnt-out light bulbs had been replaced, and the cultists walked around in awe of the cleaned mansion. "Who cleaned our sacred den? I spent years trying to find the perfect dilapidated abode, and now everything is ruined!" Garthon roared. "Find the perpetrator and punish them." The cultists drew their weapons and dashed off. Lore and his goons crept into the dining hall. The place, like the rest of the mansion, was spotless. The grand fireplace had been lit and filled the room with cozy warmth. Lore sniffed the air. "I smell brisket and fried potatoes. Fresh bread, too. Someone's in the kitchen," a lackey said. The group burst into the kitchen and saw a woman dressed in the typical black and white maid uniform stirring a bubbling pot. Her eyes glowed and a bright aura radiated from her. "What are you doing here?" Lore said. "Why, I cleaned this filthy place and I'm cooking you all a fine meal." Lore raised his gnarled shillah. "She's the one who ruined the ritual! Get her!" The maid frowned. "Looks like I need to clean you, too, inside and out." Elsewhere in the mansion, Garthon and some followers entered the grand library. My tomes! I had my own system, and now they've gone and organized them. How can I find anything now? We've got some new books here too, boss. Look, there's a whole section of normal cookbooks. Look! He took a book off the shelf. A romance novel. Garthon gasped. What a truly dastardly creature! It stole away my ancient tomes of filth and replaced them with these wholesome love novels! The horror! The doors to the library swung open. The party turned ready to attack, but what they saw was a smiling, well-dressed and groomed man. Who are you? Garthon shouted. It's Lore, sir. I have decided to leave the cult because you have fostered a toxic environment and it isn't conducive with the direction I would want to take my life. Since being around you, I have become a worse person and I have a lot of things to make amends for. I hope that you have a splendid night. He waved and left. The group stood aghast at what had transpired. Garthon, a disciple whispered, what do we do against such cleanliness? We must gather our most filthy possessions, think of the most vile thoughts, slather a shell of muck and grime on our bodies to fight this force of cleanliness. We shall cast a spell that is so disgusting that even it drowns out even the most clean of spaces. To the landfill! Garthon shouted. A while later, the remaining cultists gathered at the center of the landfill to make their stand. On an altar of waste and garbage, they placed their most repulsive items, a rag covered with so many stains it was impossible to tell the original color, a dagger so rusty and bloody that it gave anyone who dared to look at it tetanus, a fossilized dragon turd, and many other repulsive objects. The cultists themselves had slathered on all of their filth that was available and filled their minds with wretched thoughts. Their chant was deep and slow. The steady beat of the drums echoed through the landfill. Garthon bellowed the forgotten phrases to create the most repulsive spells to drive away all things clean and good. This place is disgusting, a voice boomed. You should be ashamed of yourselves. The chant stopped, and everyone turned to see the maid approaching the garbage heap. No, you cannot stop the spell! Garthon uttered the final arcane phrase and stabbed the fossilized dragon turd. It shattered, releasing a gust of black foul air that made even the filthiest of cultists gag. Layers of litter lifted into the air and swirled into a massive trash tornado that flung itself at a maid. However, the maid raised her duster and blasted the garbage away. Now you'll all be clean, she said. A nearby family witnessed a strange occurrence that night. When they went to investigate the next morning, they found the battered mansion had been fixed and the junk heap had been cleaned. They entered and saw the inside of the mansion was as spotless as the outside. When they inquired about what happened, an impeccably groomed butler simply said, "We are waiting for new owners." As the family left through the highest attic window, they saw a smiling maid with glowing eyes. She waved and then vanished. Oh my gosh. Again, great use of turning expectations, of turning tropes over and doing something else with them. That was so much fun. I love her cleaning up the nasty cultists, it being a battle of clean and a battle of not clean. Dukeman. That was so fun. The next story is by Ben Hayward. The fabric of time is a real thing. Simon had bought some from a very exclusive timeshare retailer. When he was introduced to the seller, he was expecting to get a portion of a Caribbean island for a few weeks of a year. He came away with the life and times of Julius Caesar. It was a webbed, tangled thing, fine thread at points, but wrought with knots at others, and it ends with frayed, dripping with blood. Whenever he held it, he could see through time to the point that the thread represented. He knew what death felt like, having lived it through Caesar's eyes. The seller had told him to keep it safe. By purchasing it, he had a duty of care. To that end, he kept the safe in a cabinet. To that end, he kept it safe in a cabinet in his home office. This weekend, Simon and his wife would be entertaining various local politicians and businessmen at their home. He was sent out to select the finest food and drink while Sierra monitored the cleaners. Anything paid for could be written off as a business expense, as they were looking for investments in a hedge fund that they managed. Returning home with a stock of Bollinger, Dong Paragon, and Moa Chondan, along with a butler, he took the newly purchased vintage down to the wine cellar. He could see his wife and her reflected radiance through the kitchen window. Her vivid blue eyes met his as he passed the window, coupled with her warm, beckoning smile. After he was done and entered the reception, it looked immaculate. Sierra came out of the kitchen and kissed him on the cheek. "I missed you while you were gone," she whispered in his ear. "I missed you too, dear. Are the cleaners still here?" She pulled away from him and brushed her dress down before shaking her head slightly and blinking heavily. "Yes, we had them for another hour, so I had them do the laundry," Sierra replied. "Fair enough. I should probably go and get dressed for later." "Okay, darling." She planted a kiss on him, the wax of her lipstick marking his skin. He had never been the best at expressing himself, even at her. He wanted to just grab her, take her upstairs, and ravish her. But there was always something blocking him, be it social conditioning or the thought of one of the maids walking in on them. Why was there a speck of blood on the stairs? "Did you or one of the maids cut yourself, dear?" he asked as he stared at the ink-red stain at the corner of the steps. No, not as far as I'm aware." He dashed upstairs and into the home office. The cabinet was closed. He whispered a silent prayer to himself. He decided to quickly check the contents. It was unlocked and swung open. The timeshare of Julius Caesar, which usually hung like a spinal cord next to his assortment of ties, was missing. He ran down the stairs, pushing past Sierra, who still stood in the hallway. "Excuse me." "Is something wrong, dear?" she said, looking genuinely upset. "I really hope not." He found the two cleaners standing in the cellar, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee from a thermos flask, running past them to get to the laundry. The washing up basket was empty, and the washing machine was on full spin, water boiling and clothing flowing. Placing his foot on the machine and wrenching the door with both hands, the door swung open, hot water and clothes being gouged up in the mechanical Heimlich maneuver. As he pulled the clothes onto the floor, he could hear one of the cleaners, the short, fat one with the mole on her forehead, yelling her protestations. He could not focus on what she was saying. He had to find hope that things were not too late. Amid the tangled Rat King shirts, pants, socks, and underwear, all he could find were a few discarded strands of nerve endings. The face of Lucullus, the seizure in his house in Rome, receiving word of his daughter's death, even these were wilting and fizzling on the vine. When the last of the strands faded, he had balled his hands until his fingers bled and awoke as if it were from a dream. His perceptions changed on his axis. Objects and colors before him blended together and broke apart almost atomically. When he came to, he was in a muddy tunnel. It caked through the gaps in his toes. Something heavy and metal was affixed to his throat. The tunnel was dark. There was a line of figures like him, all chained together by the collars at their throats. In the distance, he could see a door of piercing white daylight. The tunnel was silent besides the groans of the pain and occasional squelching of human feet. After what seemed like hours, with his body in agony, he heard a guttural yell at the front of the column in what sounded like Portuguese or maybe Italian. The column steadily moved forward, pulling a body along with its ceaseless momentum. It was all his legs could do to keep him on his feet. They were drawn into the marble square. One by one, they were invited to stand on the plinth at the center. He could hear words that sounded strangely familiar to him, like Germanicum, Briticana, Gallia. Eventually, he was drawn into the plinth before the small crowd. The officials in front of him looked at him, nonplussed, as if he did not know where to place him, shouted, "Gracia!" Hands went up in lots as an auction. Those holding the lots seemed almost faceless, merging into the mass of flesh and dyed fabrics. After it was done, he was packed into a carriage with a few others who had been purchased. In another life, he would have been shunned of physical contact, but here he could not avoid it. There was no space. When he arrived at their destination, he could see a pair of familiar, vivid blue eyes meet his as he passed to the window. In another life, they were filled with passion, but in this one, he was seen as a possession. Ooh, I got the chills. That would be a great way to start into like a longer story using this idea of timeshares getting into people's lives. Like, that is a really interesting idea, and I could see, especially with like having an intro longer to show this character more who this is, set him up, and then have this, and then get into either this is like the prologue where it goes into the next person because it's just giving you this look, but like also the prose on this. This is such an interesting idea, and it is so well written in the way that it is written. The ending line is great. The next story is by Vladimir Novitski. And I know this is your first time submitting, so thank you so much for submitting. I am overwhelmed a little bit by how well received Maid Ruins the Day went, because I was really nervous. I was getting ready. I was recording last month's LMIAY and then looking at what this month was, and then I was like, is this too vague? Is anybody even gonna want to do this? And then a lot of people responded, and I'm like, thank you guys. I'm so glad that it was an inspiring prompt, and it's been so much fun to see all the different things, so thank you. This story is called Handmaiden of Clay. To any faithful reading this, heed my warning, for what is to follow is a work of heresy. Adhered to strictly in the Eastern lands, it has been conceived of the permeation of pagan belief into our holy creed, and became one of the chief causes of the marked rebellion. Lest the truth of the Holy Daughter be diluted and the history of that bloody war repeated, be careful to keep this text out of the hands and minds of the common folk. Signed, Chief Archivist of Lan Parvel, Gramir Te Zotar, year 1393 of arrival. It came to pass in those times before time that the children of men, beset by the devourer, called out to the meek mistress of the light, LMIAY. Hearing their cries, she took pity on them and sought to help her faithful. To her birthplace she came, to the aspen grove crossed by the river, into which the brilliant blood of Wellen fell. There she stood and said, "Heed me, bitter aspens. By my power sweet fruit you shall bear, in color rich and in fragrance." And so the bitter aspens bowed their crowns, and did as they were told, drinking in the wind and the earth, and the swift waters of the blessed river, and bore fruit. The devourer was a snake in the grass then, and saw that, and took notice. Then LMIAY, the blessed daughter, reached down into the river, and picked a clump of clay. In her hands she took it, and broke it. And so there were two. Out of each one she fashioned a pretty little doll with green aspen twigs for bones, one male and one female. On the ground she stood them, and so they were alive, eyes a-glitter, lips joyous with smiles. "You," she said to the boy doll, "shall be known as Dern the Jester. Music and dances are going to be your calling, and the careless play of the swords. Teach the children of men the passion, and marry I shall," replied Dernay the Jester, and laughed raucously. "You," she said to the girl doll, "shall be known as Arena, the tailor. Paints and chisels are going to be your calling, and the careful threading of the needles." "Teach the children of men the steadiness of hand and quiet reflection I shall," replied Arena the tailor, and bowed graciously. "Both of you shall be winemakers of this grave. Take the sweet fruits of the bitter aspens, press the juice of them, make the wine of living word, for the children of men to drink, and to wield my blessing, to command the winds, to reason with the flames, to befriend the waters, to rebuff the devourer." And so the dolls bowed their heads and did as they were told, with their gentle hands picking the fruit, with their nimble feet pressing the juice, and making the wine of living word with it. The devourer was a bird in the trees then, and saw that, and took notice. Then LMIAY, the revealer of secrets, took a cup of fresh wine and spilled it in the river's waters, and said, "Heed me, swift river, my gentle cradle. Take this wine made of sweet fruit of bitter aspens. Carry it to the lands of men, for children of men to drink it, to wield my blessings, to command the winds, to reason with the flames, to befriend the waters, to rebuff the devourer." And so the river sang its agreement and did as it was told, carrying the wine with its waters to deliver LMIAY's blessing. The devourer was a toad on a rock then. The devourer was a toad on the rock then, and saw that, and took notice. For a time, all was well in the grove. The bitter aspens bore sweet fruit. Twin dolls picked it and made wine with it, and the river carried the living word to the lands of men. Then the devourer got to work. It slid off the rock and dove into the river, turning into a great pike. The pike scooped the silt off the river's bottom in the great gulp. In its gullet, carried it to the surface, and onto the grassy bank spat the most perfect clump of clay. No twigs or small stones it bore in it, and in color it was a beautiful warm red. The very next night, LMIAY was strolling on the river's shore when she stumbled in her graceful gait, stepping on the clump of clay. She took a look at it, and was glad, for it was perfect for shaping. She took the clay and wrapped the bones of aspen twigs in it, and fashioned a new doll with cheeks rosy and pretty, a head taller than Duren and Arana. With a smile, the knight's daughter admired her work. On the ground she stood the doll, and so it was alive, eyes a-glitter, with a mischievous grin on the lips. "You," she said to the new doll, "my best work yet, shall be known as Rhea, the handmaiden. Words and tales are going to be your calling, and the anxious stirring of the heart. Above your siblings, you shall stand chief among them, though born later, older sister to them. Teacher, teach the children of men to cry with joy and laugh at misfortune I shall," replied Rhea, the handmaiden of LMIAY, and smiled furtively. "With your siblings, you shall be winemakers of the grove. Take the sweet fruit of the bitter aspens, press the juice of them, make the wine of the living world for children of men to drink and to wield my blessings, to command the winds, to reason with the flames, to befriend the waters, to rebuff the devourer." And so the doll bowed her head and did as she was told, embracing her brother and sister and joining them. For a time all was well in the grove. The bitter aspens bore sweet fruits. 3 sibling dolls picked it and made wine with it, and the river carried it to the lands of men. Then the devourer got to work. It swooped down from the trees, hid itself against the ground, turning into a great big wolf apple, only red as blood, sweet as black cherry, and fragrant as roses. The very next night, siblings wandered to the grove, picking the sweet fruit of the bitter aspens, when Rhea stumbled in her lively gait, finding the wolf apple at her feet. "Such a beautiful fruit I have found," exclaimed the handmaiden. "Against its color those bitter aspens pale. In size and in fragrance they fall short, and surely in sweetness they are no match. Press the juice of it we shall, to make the sweetest cup of the blessed wine." Durnay and Arana heard that and were troubled. "Our mistress, LMIAY, the shaper of clay, called us to pick the fruits of bitter aspens," they said. "No further order did she give. Please, big sister, leave the strange fruit be. Has our mistress not made me stand above you? Am I not chief among you, though born later, older sister, to you?" "Born later, older sister to you?" "That you are," replied the dolls, hanging their heads in shame. "Oh, cheer up, my sister, cheer up, brother. Leave our empty worries, for all is well in this grove of ours. Surely no wickedness can enter it." And so they did. When time came to press the juice of the fruit, the wolf apple was pressed with the rest. Dark and thick its juice ran, a tar like honey. With juices of aspen fruit it mixed thoroughly, making for a wine most heady. Rhea held up a fresh cup of the wine, so glad of her work. "Look, brother, sister, look," she said, "the sweetest cup of the living word that we have made. Surely it'll be the greatest blessing to the children of men." Durnay and Arana heard that and were troubled. "Sister," they pleaded, "no leave do we have from our mistress LMIAY, the shaper of clay, to make wine of that strange fruit. Do not give the wine of this cup to the river, we beseech you. Has our mistress not made me stand above you? Am I not the chief among you, though born later, older sister to you?" "That you are," replied the dolls, hanging their heads in shame. "Oh, cheer up, brother, cheer up, sister. Leave your empty worries, for all is well in this grove of ours. Surely no wickedness can spoil our efforts." And so they did. After Rhea, they walked to the river and watched as, with a smile, she poured the fresh wine into the river waters. Then the devourer rose from the grass. From it could not contain its glee any longer. "What a delightful little doll you are, Rhea, the tainted. It spoke to the handmaiden. Such a willful child, arrogant and prideful. Know that it is by my hand that you were guided, from my clay fashioned. It was my fruit that you have found, and against the better judgment of your siblings pressed. My wine that you have made, and to the children of men sent, and the living word they imbibe shall be forever mine. My command shall they give to the winds. My reason shall they pass on to the flames. My friend shall they make the waters. To the devourer they shall succumb. And so, with the puff of black smoke and a flash of lightning, it was gone, leaving the dolls standing on the grassy bank thunderstruck. On her knees fell Rhea, the tainted, the handmaiden of LMIAY, whose calling is the words of grief and the tales of sorrow and the rending anguish of the heart. Her bitter tears she spilled into the bitterest cup. Woe is me, the betrayer! How could I let my pride blind me so? How could I let the beast lead me astray? How could I close my eyes to the warnings of my siblings? Forever cursed I am. With my arrogance, my mistress's blessings have I destroyed. It is said that after LMIAY knew about the devourer's plot, she forbade her servants to make wine of the sweet fruit of the bitter aspens and give it to the river to carry. With thistles and thorns has the grove overgrown, and without LMIAY's light, the nights there grew dark and perilous. Untended, bitter aspens would drop their fruit on the ground to rot, and rancid juice of them would bit by bit into the river seep. Slow and dirty the river run, still carrying the leavings of tainted living word to the lands of men, to the devourer's delight. All you born to the curse of the living word, fated now it may be, heed the tale of the handmaiden of clay. Give no command to the winds, pass no reason onto the flames, and of the waters make no friends. For with your tongue the devourer shall speak, and to its power you shall succumb. Ooh. That gives me the chills. What a beautiful story. It makes me think of a folklore or fairy tale or a parable that would be in a Bible. Having a meaningful a story that you would tell to like children as a warning kind of makes me think, obviously got some parallels with the Bible with Adam and Eve and eating of an apple. So we got an apple here, but that's like the most obvious a reference. And because I know that we've had the conversation sort of before, this would actually, if we were using modern verbiage, this could actually work for magical realism as a short story, because it's all just, magical realism works for folklore and fairy tales, because the fairy tales sort of just envelope this sort of thing. There is such, both in the way that it is written, the language used, making it feel older and stronger, like a parable or a fairy tale passed down, and the building behind it of the siblings and the storyteller becoming both the older sibling to become the leader and also the one that fell from pride. Great story, beautiful storytelling, Vladimir. Thank you so much for submitting. The next story is by KawaiiGroovycat. Get ready, I'm never sure what to expect when we're getting into her stuff. Look, last year was boat love. I still remember the boat. 1 month, day, 2012. Lately, the mistress has been coming home past midnight. It's been getting dangerous outside, so I tell her in advance while I'm making dinner. 2 month, day, 2012. The mistress is leaving her dirty laundry lying around all over the place. From now on, I'll leave her a note reminding her to put her clothes in the laundry hamper after she's changed outfits. 3 day, month, 2012. The mistress is spending a lot of money, and nobody really knows what she's spending it on. Money doesn't grow on trees, even in this family, so I'll remind her to be mindful of what she spends and what she purchases. 4 day, month, 2012. The mistress spilled red wine on my new clothes. She laughed and apologized, saying, "Oops, it didn't work out." I appreciate the apology, but what exactly didn't work out? 5 month, day, 2012. The madame complained offhandedly. "Why does our maid have such a poor memory? I'm not really sure what I forgot about, but I should probably write down everything so that there won't be any chance for me to forget anything again." 6 month, day, 2012. The mistress left her breakfast uneaten this morning. I don't understand why. When I asked, she only mumbled something about backwater scum. What should I do? 7 month, day, 2012. The master blew up my mobile in the middle of the night. He must have been calling half asleep, because when I came running, all he said was, Does that whore think that she's the only one who can get late-night sides? I really don't know what he thinks he's talking about, but I don't think that there's a single good answer to that question. Maybe he didn't realize that he was calling the wrong number? What should I do? 8. Month, day, 2012. The black sheep tried to hide his cuts from me again. I really don't understand that boy. He should know that it won't help him to hide such things from the ones who regularly treat his injuries, and even putting that aside, he won't fool me even if he's hurt a part of his body that he covers with his clothes. Still, I shouldn't complain. Even though we're only related legally, he's the only one who openly acknowledges me as a member of his family. 9. Month, day, 2012. The mistress put chewing gum in the coffee machine this morning. She wouldn't tell me why. Up until now, I've been trying to figure out the reason, but maybe there is none. 10. Month, day, 2012. The mistress has been coming home in time for dinner lately. Very good. 11. Month, day, 2012. The madame played some mean pranks on the cybernetic R&D lady today, and in the evening the mistress complained about problems with the joints in her fingers. I think that there's something deeply wrong with this family. 12. Month, day, 2012. The mistress left one piece of lettuce uneaten today. 13. Month, day, 2012. The black sheep has rejected every girl that the madame and the mistress have presented him with thus far. At the madame's request, I asked him if he was secretly a homosexual. He denied it, so it must be that those two either have poor taste in women or they simply have no idea what his taste in women is. Really, one would think that his own mother and sister would know better. I don't think that it would be far-fetched to claim that they're picking girls that they must know the black sheep will dislike. 14. Month, day, 2012. Today, the mistress came home 2 minutes late. I'm not sure why the madame lets her get away with this when she's normally so strict about punctuality, but I don't think that it's going to happen again. It's simply unacceptable. 15. Month, day, 2012. The master's posture has been getting worse. Unacceptable. 16. Month, day, 2013. I worry that the mistress hasn't been getting enough sleep, so I slipped some valerian root into her tea. That should help at least somewhat. 17. Month, day, 2013. When I prepared the black sheep's coffee this morning, I put some extra cream in it. His bones will need the extra calcium if he refuses to have any of his limbs replaced like the mistress. 18. Month, day, 2013. The mistress believes that she might be suffering from hallucinations. Perhaps I mistakenly used the morning glories instead of honeysuckle in her morning tea. 19. Month, day, 2013. The madame is growing concerned about the black sheep's drinking problem. It's funny, really. Only now does she notice what has been an issue for 3 years, and she is still unaware that he drinks so much because she's always stressing him out. Anyways, she told me to figure out what to do about him before his health declines too much. I'm happy she trusts me so much, but I think I'm a little out of my element here. I'm a maid, not a doctor, but the black sheep doesn't like the family doctor very much, so I guess I don't really have a choice. 20. Month, day, 2013. Something has happened to the black sheep. He complains about blood under his nails, but when I checked his hands for myself, I couldn't see anything. Anyways, this is seriously concerning. It's obvious that he isn't all the way there. In fact, one could even say that he's a different person. He still has his self-awareness and his memory is intact, but that might be the problem. He acts less like a human and more like a robot, but in private, he's prone to sudden outbursts where he only repeats the same words. Why? Where he only repeats the same word. Why? I wish I could tell him. But I don't even know why, and to be honest, I don't want to know why, or what happened. Maybe he's finally snapped. Anyways, the madame has told me once again to do something about him. I don't know what she thinks I am, but I guess she finds me to be the most reliable out of anyone in this house. She does always accept what I say without question, as does the master. 21. Month, day, 2013. After doing some research, I think introducing some metropone into the black sheep's diet should be able to help him. 2022. Month, day, 2013. It seems to be helping somewhat. The black sheep is having trouble recalling exactly what has disturbed him, and thus is less distressed, and his mind is still intact. Good. 23. Month, day, 2013. I've been getting better at determining what the madame will request of me, so much so that I no longer have to listen to her ramblings in order to make an accurate hypothesis. Lately, she's been struggling to pinpoint when and why she started being unable to remember actions she once customarily ordered or did herself to a state of mundaneness. It angers her, but she can't do anything about it because she's starting to grow ill. 24. Month, day, 2013. What started as a random quiet cough that was easy for the madame to conceal from others has morphed into red mucus and dry hoarse rasps. Even I'm surprised at how quickly this has happened. The mistress correctly discerned that the culprit was arsenic, but is unsure where it is coming from. Perhaps one of her many cybernetic implants? Either way, nobody seems to blame me. It's strange. I could hide one of their belongings and lie right to their faces about it, and they'll believe me. I haven't gotten in trouble for it, even once so far. 25. Month, day, 23. Note to self, potassium cyanide looks terrifyingly identical to sugar. 26. Month, day, 2023. The mistress seems more irritable than she usually is whenever I'm around. I feel for her, despite myself. 27. Month, day, 2023. Ketamine seems to have done the mistress some good. I haven't heard her insult me in almost a week. 28. Month, day, 2013. I don't know the details of what even transpired that caused such an uproar in the family, but things are really starting to quiet down. I enjoy the peace, and it puts me at ease to be more in control than I was. But it's almost scary in a way. I don't really know why. 29. Month, day, 2013. The black sheep made me promise a long time ago that I would never show him any pity, but regretfully I broke that promise today. I wish I could tell him what I've done to make life more peaceful, but I can't do that, no matter how much part of me desperately wants to. 30. Month, day, 2013. Ah, I know what I'm afraid of now. It's me. It's always been me. The trust everyone put in me, my ability to put up with anyone, no matter how rude or unpleasant they act toward me, and my own acquired knowledge about all sorts of things, especially drugs. But most of all, I'm scared of how far I'm willing to go, and that I won't realize when I've gotten carried away. I love stories that are told through like letters or diary entries. It's done somewhat, but not a lot. The only story I can remember doing that last year that I read was The Perks of Being a Wallflower. But that also wasn't done like this. Like, this is different when it's in a short story format, too, because you can write it in a certain way that I don't think necessarily would work long-term for a book, but works in a short story. And the tension is there as you only get what the character is reporting to you. And the building tension in that was great, as you're getting a little bit of family dynamic and the maid obviously... Well, the narrator not necessarily telling you the full truth of what's happening, but also following along with what she's doing. The next story is by R.S. Alessi. Hey kids, want some soda? 4 two-headed kids looked up from their afternoon worksheets like a pack of tiny wolves. Yes, Miss Danny, they said in chorus. Danny smiled broadly as she swept into the breakfast nook with a tray of treats. Look what else I got for you. Cupcakes! On cue, the tattletale of the group, 6-year-old Stacy, piped up. Shouldn't we ask Mom? Their mother, Teresa Howard, yes, the Teresa Howard, wife of the YouTube's famous fitness guru Cowboy, never let her children consume anything processed. I don't think Mom'll... Stacy's older brother clapped a hand across her mouth, and the twins pinched her. Thank you, Miss Danny, the 3 imps chimed. Danny set the tray down and returned with 4 iPads. I unlocked YouTube for 2 hours. Enjoy! Leaving the children to their entertainment, she walked past dirty dishes piled high in the sink and scattered toys that she hadn't bothered to put away. Up the spiral staircase, she tiptoed and past Cowboy's recording studio. He was in there now, his famous baritone muffled by the soundproofing. 3 years of insults Danny had suffered, working as the Howard's family housekeeper. She took each insult with the meekness of her position demanded. But yesterday, a line had been crossed. Yesterday, Teresa attacked her integrity. Haphazardly misplaced jewelry that could have covered 2 years' rent Danny ignored. Unsupervised, she drove the Howard's children around in the family G-Wagon to various school, athletic, and musical endeavors. She'd even been given a blank checkbook to compensate the army of service professionals required to keep the Howard's 10,000 square foot McMansion in peak condition. I found a brown hair in my toothbrush. That was Teresa's opening salvo when she summoned Danny into her palatial ballroom yesterday morning, waving the offending toothbrush inches from Danny's nose. And everyone in this family is blonde. Teresa was a brunette, but she paid a stylist to maintain her iconic platinum locks. Danny lowered her gaze and folded her hands behind her back. I'm sorry, ma'am. Perhaps when I was cleaning. Don't lie to me. You came up here and brushed your teeth with my toothbrush. God only knows what else you did. Danny apologized again. She didn't know what else to say, and Teresa launched into a tirade that might have gone on for an hour if Stacey hadn't come up the stairs with news that her siblings were pulling the legs off a spider. For the rest of the day, Danny wandered around in a daze. 3 years she'd devoted to the Howard family. 3 years she'd devoted to the Howard family, working every holiday and weekend, missing family events and birthdays, and for what? To be accused of borrowing a toothbrush? By nightfall, Danny was thinking about something else. 3 years of all work and no fun had left her with a tidy nest egg. Why not move somewhere sunny and warm, get herself a stupid little job to cover expenses, and rest easy knowing that she had $100,000 in the bank? She started packing. Certain things needed doing before she could leave, which is why she headed to the master bathroom. Without hesitation, she grabbed Teresa's toothbrush and marched into the water closet. For the next 20 minutes, she gave the toilet the best cleaning it had ever received. Danny returned the toothbrush to its cup after a quick rinse to remove the obvious grime. Downstairs and back through the kitchen, she paused to check on the kids. Each was mesmerized by their iPad. Do you want more cupcakes and soda? Yes, Miss Danny, they said in unison. Danny refilled the snack tray and left it in the middle of the table. The siblings descended upon the treats before them as only children who had never tasted sugar could. For a moment, her heart ached. 3 years she'd devoted to these kids, and she loved each of them. Too bad their mom was a bitch. Every afternoon at 4 p.m., Teresa took a martini while she sunbathed. Danny mixed vodka in vermouth and strained it into the chilled glass. To the drink tray, she added Teresa's prescription bottle of Xanax and headed outside. The Howard's pool looked like it belonged at a theme park, surrounded by lush tropical plants and crowded with water slides and fountains. Plains of gleaming concrete boasted all kinds of seating. A dining table set for 12, curving sectionals piled high with cushions, and classic hotel chaises lined up in a row. On one of these chaises, Teresa lay like a bronze sacrifice. What took you so long? Teresa asked without looking up. Danny startled and nearly spilled the cocktail. I'm sorry, ma'am. The kids. I pay you to manage your time so the kids are dealt with and my martini is served on time. Is that clear? Danny set the tray on the side table beside Teresa. Yes, ma'am. I didn't ask for my Xanax, Teresa said after taking a sip of her martini. I thought you might need it. Teresa leaned forward and tipped her sunglasses down. Why? Because I'm turning in my notice. Huh? Teresa blinked like someone had slapped her. But Cowboy and I have a date tonight, and there's the party on Saturday. You should have thought about that before you called me a liar. Teresa's face screwed up, the usual wind-up before she unleashed her temper. You can't quit. Your contract says that you have to give me 2 weeks' notice. Danny smiled. Fuck you. I'm leaving. And she did. The characterization in this is top-notch. It's been so amazing watching you grow as a writer, Alessi, from every time that you've submitted to like nailing down the body, the location, the feeling of it being lived in. Every time you've submitted, it's gotten better and better. Your character voices are on point, and then when you do stuff like this, it's just like you can hear the characters, you see the characters existing, and it's so strong. Those were the stories that made it this time. Thank you so much to everybody for submitting. Good luck next month. Let me know what your favorite was down in the comments below. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a good week. Happy April, and don't die.
The only people who should come are those who want to meet their monsters.
If this is what Agatha wants, I don't know how we can even dispute it.
I change lives, baby.
And I end them. Sweetheart, no bargains hold. Only fools know restraint.
Only losers lose!
I've been under the knife so many times, I'm practically immune to it.
If your scissors are dull, may I recommend sharpening them with leather?
I think I hit you.
Mimal says I must have a guardian angel.
To enter the ring but abstain from playing is suicidal. Your virtue makes you nothing but a liability.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.